All right, Jake, what's tip number 3, please?
Right, so tip number 3 is to try to teach from anywhere in the room.
Right, you've teased this before, so tell us about this.
Yeah, so, gosh, okay, how do I go about doing this? So there's multiple different ways to teach anywhere in the room, and I've tried a few of those, and you don't need to use software to do any of this as well, but there are different ways you can do it with different kinds of software, different kinds of hardware. I know people who get a Surface Pro or an iPad or something, and they go and teach at the back of the room, and the kids see like a mirror of what is on their screen. But then you have that problem based on tip number 2, which is there's going to be that clutter still, potentially. There's going to be toolbars at the top, like the OneNote toolbars or whatever. So there are some potential problems with that one. Another one is you can go and use a graphics tablet. I know people who buy like £50 graphics tablets and they're standing at the back of the room, but if there's no screen on the graphics tablet, then they've got to look at the board, and it's quite hard to draw like an actual vertical line or a horizontal line if you're trying to do a graph or something. So, so for me, teaching at the back of the room often means, or I'd like it to mean, if the Wi-Fi was good enough, taking a tablet to the back of the room and sitting down next to a student, basically. So maybe a student who's behaving poorly or someone who needs a little bit of extra help with something, and taking a tablet and sitting down next to them and starting to write on there and do the worked examples, whatever else it might be, or not the worked examples, something else in the lesson. And that's the large part of what I mean here by teach anywhere in the room. But also you've got now the tablet, and you can go and give that to someone else. So you can give it to a student and they can do the work as well. And I've done that quite a lot, and the kids love to get the tablet. They love to start writing on it themselves and pass it around the room, and they're pointing out the problems live as they're happening.
This is interesting. So let me get this right, Jake. Is something appearing on the big screen whilst you're doing this, or is this all just on the tablet?
Yeah, sorry. So the idea here is that you've got a tablet at the back of the room which is in sync with what's on the board. So if you've got mathsuniverse.com/whiteboard and your room code up on the board, and you've got the same one on your tablet, then as you write on the tablet, you get it on the board. But you can have an interface on your tablet which shows you different pen colours and different options, and you can keep all of that clutter completely off the whiteboard. So there's no toolbars on the whiteboard, there's no any of that, and you're not even getting in the way of the board, right? That's one of the things about it, is you're not standing in front of the board, the kids can't see something, you're completely out of the way, they can focus on what's happening on the board.
I see. The bit I missed there is the software or whatever. You're using your website as the kind of tool to do this. I see, right. Whereas if you use OneNote, you get the toolbars. PowerPoint is a flipping disaster waiting to happen if you're trying to use it for that kind of thing. Right, I see. So you use it. And is it the same? Is it a different part of the website, different URL than the one it's...
No, it's completely the same. So mathsuniverse.com/whiteboard. All of this stuff will work at that same web address. And like I say, this is the only thing that's on the board on my screen the whole lesson. So there's basically my PowerPoint is the lesson, but I've got PowerPoint open on my desktop in edit mode rather than slideshow mode. So I've got all the toolbars and the thumbnails on the left, and I can add text and I can add pictures to it, icons, whatever else I want to do on my desktop computer. And then that is kind of screen shared across to the whiteboard, except I crop down, so it's just the page area of it, so you don't get all those toolbars. And then if I take a tablet to the back of the room, then I can also see that on that tablet as well. So as I go between the slides, and I'll go between the slides using like one of these little USB presenter things. As I go between the slides on there, it changes what the kids see on the board, and it changes what I see on the tablet as well.
Wow! So there's kind of 3 screens.
It's quite hard to kind of explain it, because it is quite technically complex, I guess. But it's a little bit like using Microsoft Teams and doing, casting your screen so that everyone else can see it. Except you're just doing that locally from one screen to the other and cropping it down. Plus, you're remotely transmitting it to your tablet in the back of the room.
This is lovely, and thank goodness you're going to do a video for us on this, because the bit
it's quite hard to explain,
it really is, but it's fascinating. I think I've seen one of your videos on this, and it was the cropping bit that I'd missed as well. It's the fact you can have your desktop kind of as cluttered as you like, and have all your tools ready, but you're just cropping. So it's really just, it's a blank canvas essentially that the kids see, so you can really focus in on it. I really, really like this. It reminds me, Jake, as well, a kind of a real low-tech way of doing this that I see a lot. I mean, your way's really low-tech as well, but even if you...
Oh, I love low-tech ways of doing things. Like sometimes I just keep the screen off completely and go, just on the physical whiteboards. I much prefer writing on physical whiteboards to the digital one at the front.
Sorry, and I'll tell you what I like as well is, and I don't know what your view on this is, I've got this theory that there's a bit of a, however we do it, there's a bit of a disconnect between what we do at the board and what the kids do in their books. For a real plain and simple reason, that the kids in the book, the kids' books have got like little mini squares on there. The whiteboard is big blank. The kids' book are, I always get these wrong around, portraits. The whiteboard tends to be landscape, blah, blah, blah. Whereas what I really like is when teachers, under the visualizer, literally just have the exact same book that the kids have, and they do like the working out and the modelling. So, and they get the rulers out and the angle measurers out, not some fancy digital version, like literally what the kids are going to be using. And that, it feels to me, this fits in with your pedagogy, that it's just, it's stripping out all the tech and everything, and it's just, it reduces that disconnect, so that literally what I'm doing at the board as the teacher, you can do the exact same thing that I'm doing because I'm using the same tools as you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Visualizer really is the best way to do that. I don't currently have a visualizer. This is kind of, in a way, the second best way, but it's also better in some other ways as well. Like actually being able to, it takes a long time to get a student to come up to the board and do something, right? I rarely actually do that. Often they want to, and I'm thinking, is it worth the 20 seconds of them getting out of their chair and, finally getting their way to the board and then getting very embarrassed and not doing it very well, and then another student wanting to go up. It just takes a long time. So if you can kind of pass them a tablet to do it on instead, and they just start writing on there, I think that's generally a better solution than getting them up to the board.
It's really interesting. When in terms of, so obviously now you've got this set up, you can be anywhere in the room at any different point in time. When you're doing your
when my Wi-Fi works.
When you're doing your examples and kind of explanations and so on, do you always tend to be at the front? Would there ever be an argument for going into the class?
Back in the room. So when I'm doing my worked examples, that is literally just like one PowerPoint slide, then another, then another, then another, except I'm doing it from my clicker at the back of the room. So I will tend to go to the back of the room, tell them it's a worked example, I'll stand there, wait for silence, and then I'll just click through it. And I'm watching their heads to make sure they're looking at the board. And then every now and then I go to the front of the room just to check their eyes are on the board. But yeah, generally I'm out of the way. They're not looking at me. I want them to be looking at the work, not me.
Whoa, that's fascinating. Yeah, I really like. Yeah, I've not. For me, like, I'd need to be at the front to kind of gesture, to kind of point what they need to be attending to at any one stage. But I've got to weigh up the pro of that versus the potential kind of distracting element of having me there as well. That's, I'm going to have to think more about that.
So there is a software solution to that exact problem, Craig. So if you have a tablet with a pen and not an Apple Pencil, because Apple Pencil can't, it doesn't know when it's hovering over the tablet. If you've got an Android tablet with a pen, and you're doing something from the tablet at the back of the room on my software, then you get a little yellow circle where you are, so you can highlight something on the board using that without actually standing there at the front. So as I hover my pen over somewhere, you can see a yellow dot at the front, and that tells you what you do.
Flipping heck, right. I'm going to have a play around.
Oh, there's another nice feature as well, that you've just done something, and then like you can't remember the order that you did something, or the kids can't remember. Okay, I can see the whole worked example on the board, but like, what did he do first? And there's a really easy way to just like live replay everything that you've done on the current annotations. So that's a little bit of a killer feature.
Oh, you've just dropped that in as a little bombshell at the end there, Jake. Flipping it, because that is mega powerful, right? Because it's sort of like the power of seeing a worked example live is exactly that. You focus in on the order. It's not just all the information. It's what am I doing to get from line 1 to line 2? And if you can already see line 2, that's nowhere near as powerful. But if you can then replay that and watch that unfold, you get all the advantages of watching something on a video and so on, that you can see the order. It feels live. That feels big. You're going to have to do a video. Yeah, it's going to be some video of this, Jake, to convey all that info. But that is lovely stuff.
And I'm looking at a way of kind of easily exporting those videos as well into, like, as a GIF into your PowerPoint file. So you can make it in the software, then you can just copy and paste it into a PowerPoint. So I think that will help a lot of people.
Flipping it.
So for tip number 3, my wonderful assistant Benji and myself are going to show you how we can use mathsuniverse.com/whiteboard to try teaching from anywhere in the room. So let me explain the setup that we've got first so far. So this would be my main computer at school. It's got PowerPoint open. Over here, this is the screen that the kids are going to see. You're on an interactive or non-interactive whiteboard, and it's got a cropped version of that PowerPoint. Now you can look at tip number 2 for instructions on how to do that. And then we've got a tablet as well. So we've just gone to the same room code on that tablet, and you can see we can see exactly the same thing as we can over on that main screen. We've also got a remote control, which I'm going to tell you about in a little bit as well. So we should see that as Benji starts to write on that tablet, or even just hover over that tablet, we can see on the screen where he's hovering. So maybe Benji wants to talk about something without actually writing on it. So he's going to talk about that BIDMAS question, bottom left, and he's just going to hover over 3 times 6 and explain things, and then he's actually going to start doing the working. And he's talking about how he needs to do the 3 times 6 first, and then he's actually going to do the working on that tablet, and it would appear on both of the screens. So good, he gets 18, and then he gets 10 for that. He's going to add those 2 numbers together to get 28. Okay, it's really nice having that yellow thing to show the kids where on the screen you're currently working. Now, of course, we don't need any interface on the main screen at all. If we look at tip number 2, we can just go and hide completely the interface on that main screen, and that's what the kids see. But the interface that Benji gets on his screen, he can double tap on there, and he can get an interface if he wants one without an interface appearing on the main screen. You'll notice that the stuff that he's typed on the tablet so far, okay, it's on the screen that the kids can see, but it's not been added to the PowerPoint file itself. We've also got that ability to play back keystrokes as well, so we can use a 2-finger forward gesture, and it's going to replay all the gestures that he's done. It stays in sync between those devices. Okay, so now if you want to go to the next slide in the PowerPoint, obviously we could go to the keyboard, we could go into PowerPoint, go to the next slide, or we can use the auto hotkey script that we've set up, and we can use the page down button on there. You notice the tablet does take a couple more seconds to stay in sync, but as we go page up, it will page up in the PowerPoint. The kids see it straight away, and it just takes 1 or 2 more seconds for it to appear on that tablet screen as well. So I'm going to be roaming the room without the keyboard, although I could get a wireless keyboard such as this one. I'm going to be roaming the room with the tablet, with this attached to my neck as well, and I'm going to be going through those slides. We've also got the freeze button, which will work on here as well, so we could freeze it at any point. And then the kids see the one that we've currently frozen on, and we can start working on a different slide from that one. Anything else you want us to show here, Benji? No, quite often what happens though is what I will do is I will sidle up next to one of the students, sit down next to them, and I might actually give them the tablet, or I might work on the tablet next to them. Maybe he's misbehaving on this particular occasion, so I'm going to sit down next to him. I'm going to be working at the back of the room on that tablet. Don't need to be at the front of the room gesticulating in front of the whole class, especially because we've got that highlighter that appears when I'm hovering over. Now that hovering feature, that gives you that nice yellow thing on the screen, like this one here, that will only work when you're using a pen with an Android tablet. It won't work with an iOS device. This particular tablet cost about £270, and this wireless remote I think was about 15, and this keyboard was probably about £30. So that is my setup to teach from anywhere in the room with mathsuniverse.com/whiteboard. Thank you, Benji.